Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks and you're checking out a first look video on ADSR. In this video, we'll be checking out and looking at Vocal Synth 2 from iZotope. So if you guys are users of version 1, you guys will know right away that this looks a lot different. Now this isn't just an aesthetic or kind of a GUI update, there's a lot of new features. So what is Vocal Synth? Well, Vocal Synth is a creative suite, it's a toolkit for processing vocals, manipulating vocals, more in the creative sense. You have classic type of vocal effects like the vocoder, which you can see right here. You have the talk box, and you also have more futuristic and inventive effects and modules like the polyvox, the compivox, and now in version 2, biovox. So version 2 gives you a new module in biovox. It also gives you a couple new effects. You have the coarse effect, as well as the ring mod effect, and the shred effect has been kind of redesigned and overhauled. Now outside of that, you can reorder by just simply dragging around and dropping your effects, which is huge because it gives you more control over the final output of the sound. So that's kind of the main updates within it. There are some more and we'll touch on those in a little bit, but those are the big ones. Now, the next difference in comparison of version 1 to 2 is you have so much more control over the sound. Each module has a drop-down menu we can click and we have access to kind of what's going on under the hood. So for instance, if I go to the vocoder, I have access to individual bands now, as well as a 3 oscillator synth that I can layer with it. Now 4 of the 5 modules has that synth. So the only one that doesn't is the polyvox, and you can have different settings on each module. So much more control over the sound. So let's check it out on a vocal. This vocal is from an artist, this track's from an artist named After Hours, and the singer in this section is Natalie Major. Let's check it out.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving. It's the 3rd time.
And now let's have a listen with the biovox module active.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving.
Right, so that's kind of what it sounds like in its default state. So let's run through these controls because this is the brand new module here in Vocal Synth 2. So clarity. This, if we turn this down, it's going to accentuate the synth voices. So the sound becomes less clear, hence the term clarity for the name of the knob. But that's not a bad thing. It just makes your syllables and maybe the starts of the words less intelligible. But it does sound more robotic and more synthetic, which could be a cool effect. The shift control is your 4-man control. If you go down towards a negative value or approaching -100, so to the left, you'll get more of the Darth Vader deep kind of monster sound. If you go up to the right, approaching 100 positive values, more of the chipmunk sound. Now you also have a nasal and breath knob. The nasal knob is going to, as you approach 100, is going to pull out kind of the nasal frequencies, the nasal qualities of the vocal track. And then finally, we have the breath control, which is my favorite control inside the biovox module because I can see myself using this on a host of different sources. This is going to add breath, so kind of air and noise harmonics to it. Now it gets super freaking creepy when you crank it up to like 100, 95 to 100, but just a little bit can add a lot of nice air and texture. So I can see myself using this on synth sounds, lead sounds, really anything where I need to boost the overall harmonic content. So let's go down into the drop-down section, the advanced editor here. We have this vowel control. Right now, when you're working with like a vocal pass like this, say it's she's saying multiple vowels, multiple words, changing this drastically is probably going to have a pretty weird effect. Make the actual words really unintelligible. But you could, you always automate different sections. Let's say some word the singer says with more of an A and you want it to sound more, of an open sound or like a U or an O, you could automate that in. But yeah, for the most part, I could see this working very, very well in an automated sense and in like a vocal chop, or you're working with the source material that doesn't have as much variation as this pass does in terms of words and vowels. So let's just double click that, get that back to its default position. Let's check out the actual synth oscillators. So this is just one oscillator now. We can pitch this up and down. And we can change the source waveform. So we can kind of get that Z style effect if we go and turn our wet slider down.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving.
Right, you get that type of high-pitched format vocal blended in with our sound. Let's turn the actual format down.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving.
So a lot of crazy things you can do with that, and you can change between any of these waveforms. So that is the Biovox module in a kind of a quick overview, quick pass. Let's start to look at some of the other new features. So the vocoder isn't new per se, but it does have a new feature that I think is warranted to check out, and that is the ability to manipulate individual bands. We didn't have this in Vocal Synth 1.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving.
So let's turn our wet up. Let's change it to the smooth. And let's go into our editor here and let's change some of the bands. Right, so we can control the different frequencies here. We even have pan control. Which is really cool. Now, obviously, when you start to change the waveforms, this is going to have a huge effect on the sound in a vocoder. As more pronounced in the vocoder, changing from a sawtooth square than the Biovox. So those are all for sure new features in Vocal Synth 2. All right, let's keep moving along here. Now, I did touch on this. We do have the control here, the drop-down control for all of the modules except for the Polyvox. That just gives you a mix, pan, and a filter. So that being said, let's move down now to the effects module. So I'm going to turn the Biovox back on. And let's go and let's pitch this down to -12 for this example. And what we're going to do is we're going to mess around with these new effects. So the shred effect, this is an interesting one. If you're not a user of Vocal Synth 1, you might be thinking this is like some type of distortion. It's not. It's kind of like a 3-bit sequencer that you can chop up and slice the sound. So I'm going to take this length, we'll keep it a quarter, we'll keep it on the first sequence, and let's just play this. Right, so you can use this to really mangle your sound, get some glitch effects, and get some stop and go type sequence style effects. Now there is another new effect, and that is the coarse effect. So this one's really cool for this actual kind of, we looked at this Z idea where we're getting in this high-pitched format, kind of harmony going, an octave up maybe. And this one's cool because we can apply some width to that. And if we take our dry wet slider down here, it's just going to be applying the coarse mainly to the Biovox or whatever, module we're using.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving.
There's that width control, which is nice because it'll help spread out that sound kind of nicely around our source material. Finally, we have the ring mod.
Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving. Eyes roll when I say I'm leaving. Eyes roll when
So if you don't know much about ring mods, you can use these to create crazy, weird, kind of metallic textures. All right, so up next is, I think, a really great addition to Vocal Synth. iZotope has simplified the way in which you can navigate through the 3 different modes or ways in which you can use Vocal Synth in any type of DAW environment. And it's really nice. So this knows that I'm in Logic. You can see that gives me setup tips for the various modes in my current DAW. I did load this up in Ableton and it did the same thing. It knew I was in Ableton, which is really cool. So there are 3 modes: Auto, Midi, and Sidechain. Auto is what we've been working on or working with this whole video. We just stuck Vocal Synth on an audio track and then loaded up effects modules, hit play, and we heard the effect to the sound. Now there is another mode which we're going to look at right now, which is Midi, where we can use Midi events like chords, single notes to create harmonies, chordal harmonies, or just note harmonies to a kind of sidechain vocal. So let's check that out. So we're going to turn this vocal off, and I already set this up before I did this section of the video, so it's a little bit quicker. So we're going to go to a different section in the track. And what I did was, just to show you how this works, we're going to first listen to some piano. And the piano isn't actually going to ever be triggering Vocal Synth, but I just played some chords in the key of this track. So let's bring this in. right? And I'm going to a different section of the song for this. We're going to this section.
Get me through the weekend. We can both pretend that you never found somebody and our problems weren't that big.
All right, so that's the section of the track. So those chords are now going to be triggering Vocal Synth essentially. So let's hide this again and mute this. So what I've done is I duplicated those chords, MIDI region, to another software instrument track, MIDI track, and I loaded up Vocal Synth on that track. I chose MIDI, hit accept. Now what you do is you then have another audio track. It could be your main vocal or it could be a second one, like in this instance, it's a second one. I'm having that trigger this, so check this out. So let me pitch this up. So what you can do is then kind of blend the signals back together. So I'm going to take the sidechain Vox.
Get me through the weekend. We can both pretend that you never found somebody and our problems weren't that.
And you can create crazy cool kind of vocoder type chops with this. We have the BioVox on. We can of course turn on the vocoder.
Get me through the weekend. We can both pretend that you never found somebody and our problems weren't.
And all I have to do in Vocal Synth is sidechain the one that's on the MIDI track, the software instrument, to your audio track. That's all I've done. So it's really simple to do and effective, and you can get some really cool effects. So we can go in here, and if we don't want chords, we can use this as a way to kind of generate top-line harmony if we didn't have top-line harmony. So I can take these single notes here, so I'm muting everything else, and it will play this with the vocal, obviously, because it's sidechain.
Get me through the weekend. We can both pretend that you never found somebody and our problems weren't that big. Take back all the things that we never should have said.
So let's look at the third mode in which you can use Vocal Synth, and that's the Sidechain mode. So let's listen to this demo real quick. So what I've done is I've actually used Vocal Synth on some electric guitars. So let's solo these guitars real quick. So in sidechain mode, what you can do is you can have one source trigger another source to apply the Vocal Synth processing to it, and that's what we've done here. So this is the main guitar here without Vocal Synth, and this is the one with Vocal Synth, and I can turn down the main one, so we're just hearing the Vocal Synth processed guitar, which is this one. Right, so it's a pretty cool sound. Now, I like blending that with the original to get more of an organic result, but it's kind of cool having a vocoder, the BioVox, and CopyVox on an electric guitar. So, guys, that sums up our first look video for Vocal Synth 2. If you have any questions or comments, post them, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you guys like this video and you want to see more like it, please hit that like and subscribe button below. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.